One of the ways that they propagate this propaganda and consensus trance, I've talked about a lot, is through the word, what I've referred to as talismanic words and terms. And these are well known to politicians and preachers and people who have understood, like Professor Tolkien's character Saruman, the power of the word, the power of speech to control the mind. It's a very esoteric concept that ties into the gods Mercury and Hermes and so on. We don't have time to explore. But my God, have we not had that in recent times, you see. Certain words that are thrown up there. And the study of these particular words, looking at their esoteric meaning, what they might imply connotatively or to the unconscious mind even, is very important. In an article by Paul Levy online called Breaking Bush's Spell, he says that George Bush is a master hypnotist who skillfully puts people under his spell. Bush mesmerizes people by using simple, repetitive phrases. To quote Nazi propaganda chief Goebbels, propaganda must therefore always be essentially simple and repetitious. Keep repeating them in this simplified form despite the objections of the intellectuals. Bush's talking points, his buzzwords, are his incantations. These magic words act as opiates to the fearful masses. To quote ex-Harvard University president James Bryant Conant, some of mankind's most terrible misdeeds have been committed under the spell of certain magic words or phrases. This is again the power of the word. And how do we make a word? We spell it. And to emphasize that point,
the world judged the Iraqi regime was a dangerous aggressor. In the interests of world peace and regional security, the community of nations required Iraq to surrender its offensive arsenal, its chemical and biological weapons, and abandon its nuclear weapons program. Iraq agreed to comply.
The world judged the Iraqi regime to be a dangerous aggressor. In the interests of world peace and regional security, the community of nations expelled Iraq from Kuwait, required Iraq to surrender its offensive arsenal, its chemical biological weapons, and to abandon its nuclear weapons program. Iraq agreed to comply. Iraq's continued defiance of the community of nations presents a challenge which must be addressed.
Presents a challenge which must be addressed. It is inherently dangerous
to allow a country such as
Iraq to retain weapons of mass destruction, particularly in the light of its past aggressive behaviour.
If the world community fails to disarm Iraq, we fear that other rogue states will be encouraged to believe that they too can have these weapons, these most deadly of weapons, to systematically defy international resolutions, and that the world will do nothing to stop them. That is the ultimate nightmare, which the world must take decisive and effective steps to prevent.
And effective steps to prevent. Possession of chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons by terrorists would constitute a direct, undeniable, and lethal threat including to Canada
Australia
and its people.
The world has tried other means for years,
but so far to no avail. We cannot walk away from the threat that Iraq's continued
possession of weapons of mass destruction
constitutes to its region and to the wider world. In the final analysis, Mr. Speaker, the absolute conviction of the government is that disarming Iraq is necessary for the long-term security of the world and is therefore manifestly in the national interest of Australia.
In the final analysis, disarming Iraq is necessary for the long-term security of the world, to the collective interests of our historic allies, and therefore manifestly, Mr. Speaker, it is in the national interest of this country.
And so on and so forth. President of Canada, President of Australia. No ostensible connections and exactly the same script, practically word for word. We have many other examples of this. No conspiracy. Nobody higher up. It's all coming from their minds and their brains. Remember John Dean's statement about how Bush's attitude in the White House when they're sitting there? Like he's just sitting there officiating over some sort of macabre play. How much do we know about these words? Do we know that government is actually from gubernare, and mente is mental, the governance of the mind? Do we know, for instance, that the word to entertain, what it really means? For instance, that in Norwegian, actually, it means to be held under, to hold, to be held down. Entertain in Norwegian means to be held under, just like to be amused or amazed means to be confused, to distract.